this bit again. So we have time. I'm going to go ahead and run through that real quick. And so I am actually going to start out here in our PowerPoint PDF. And the reason why we're starting in the PowerPoint PDF on page 58 is that when we're going to choose a standard label program, we start with the make and model of the printer, and then we go to the validated peripherals list for thermal printers to find the media width column. So I just happen to have a clickable link under that slide, which if you click on it, will go ahead and take you to the VPL page, validated peripheral list page. And on this page, we have our thermal printers PDF, which I'm just going to go ahead and open up in a new tab. And then what you can do is you can scroll through here to find the make and model of the printer that you are interested in. Now, I'm going to go ahead and look at our Zebra 220Xi4, since that's the one that we had the question on in our lesson review. So I'm going to zoom on in here. And as we are looking at this information, the Zebra 220Xi4 has a media width that it can accept from 4¼ inches up to 8.8 inches. So this is the width of the label sticker that this particular printer make and model can handle. So pretty good range. I mean, that's over 4½ inches difference in the range. Now, once we know how wide a label sticker this printer will accept, then we go back to our slides and we go to the next slide in here where we're choosing a label program. And again, under that slide, I have a clickable link, which should take you to the Understanding Standard Specimen Management Label Programs reference page. They have updated the name, so it is now Understand Oracle Health Specimen Management Standard Label Programs, but that tiny URL will still work. So what we do on this page is that we scroll on down till we get to our label programs, and then we simply review the label stock size and the first measurement in that size. So for our Zebra 220Xi4 label printer, ZBCL100_PRD will work for that printer because 8.5 is between 4.25 and 8.8. So this is a valid label program for that printer. So then we scroll on to the next one here. We've got ZBCL120, label stock size, 7.5 inches wide. Yep, that'll work. We scroll on down, we look at 140 and 141, but these will not work because these label programs are too skinny. They are not wide enough. So we scroll down and we look at 160, again, too skinny. It has to be at least 4¼ inches. And this is only 4. So we keep right on going. And folks, that's what we do. We go ahead and we look at each of these and we go, yep, that number is within this range. So that is a valid label program for this printer. And then, just as a reminder, we associate the label program to the output destination associated to the printer. So does anybody have any questions on that? All right, I am not seeing any questions out there. And I'm not hearing any questions. So I'm going to assume that means that we are good to go. All right, so then, folks, let's head into the last chapter of the class. I would like you to please go ahead and read over pages 51 and 52 in your participant guide and give me that green check mark when you're done. For those of you that had the microbiology class last week, this is going to look really familiar. All right, folks, enjoy your reading. Give me that green check mark when you're done. All right, looks like I've got most of those green check marks out there. Thank you very much. So then let's head on over into the slides. And folks, let's go ahead and talk about troubleshooting. Now, you have seen me troubleshoot this week. My unofficial rule of troubleshooting, the very first step is always going to be don't panic. And folks, you might think I'm being silly when I say that, but it actually is for a reason. Because when we panic, we forget to ask questions to identify the problem. Because when we're, in a calm state of mind, we know that the symptoms are not always the root cause. I know I've got an RN in here. If I go to a nurse and I say, "Nurse, I've got a temperature of 99.7. And that's all the information I give. Is the nurse going to be able to tell me what's wrong with me? I mean, we don't really have time to go into that, but just for that particular example, nurse, I have a temperature of 99.7. With just that information, is the nurse able to say what the problem is? Nope, absolutely not. There could be all kinds of things going on. If it was summer, I could have been outside taking my dog for a walk when it is 90 some odd degrees. Now, I generally don't because I don't want her to get overheated. But that could happen. I could have been helping somebody move. I could be running a bit of a temperature because I'm fighting off a virus. I mean, there could be all kinds of reasons why I would have that temperature. But the nurse isn't going to be able to narrow in on what the issue is unless they ask more questions. So if we panic, we forget to do that. If we panic, we forget to go ahead and perform troubleshooting steps. What did I do this week? Very first thing I would do is try to reproduce the issue. Now, if I can reproduce the issue, then especially in a build type situation, I'm going to go back and I'm going to review the build. But if I cannot reproduce the issue, I'm going to go ahead and check the workflow. I'm going to check back with the end user. So can you confirm for me that these are the exact parameters that you were entering? And if they're not, well, we may have just identified the problem. Once we go ahead and put in the correct parameters, it works. Now, if those were the exact parameters that were being entered, they're seeing an issue and I'm not, then that tells me this is a sporadic issue. So I might cycle servers, especially if there's no difference between our users. If we are the same position, if we've got the same user groups, if we've got all the same security, then any differences can't be security related, which means that it may be that there are some servers that need to be cycled. It may be that the Citrix server that they're on might be having issues and mine is not. Now, hopefully by the time we get through our troubleshooting steps, which will include research out in the wiki, if we can't figure out what's going on just from looking in our domain, hopefully by that point we've resolved the problem. Now, if we didn't, then you get to log an SR and let folks at Cerner bang our heads on it for a little while. But folks, there is a reason why I say rule number one really should be don't panic. So if we are trying to identify the problem, you need to ask questions. You've seen me ask most of these questions this week. So can we reproduce it? Now, are you the only user that receives the error? That goes to what is the scope of the issue. I had someone this morning, it was yesterday, where I had someone saying that they couldn't hear me. And what did I do? Hey, folks, are other people able to hear me? Again, what is the scope of the issue? Now, that doesn't have anything to do with Cerner Millennium, but it's a good troubleshooting technique, because if nobody's able to hear me, or if everybody is having audio problems hearing me, then it's probably not you. Problem's probably on my side. But if most of you are able to hear me just fine and a couple of people are not, well, then I'm looking at those Citrix connections. So, or those audio connections. Are they working at the same site? Are they at the same building? Maybe they're on the same internet carrier since we're using voice over IP. That might be having the issue. It's all about what is the scope of the issue. So we're looking, is it one user? Is it all users in a position? Is it just all users in general? Is it one patient? Is it one patient or all patients on a particular patient location? So all patients on a nurse unit, all patients on an ambulatory unit. Is it one order? Is it all orders with a particular collection class on the collection requirements? You see where I'm going with this? What is the pattern to the problem? What is the scope of the issue? And sometimes it has nothing to do with the bill. Sometimes it's going to be the environment. So you are in search and you're testing a new package and you run into a problem. What's the very first thing you do? You go check and see if you can reproduce that error in another domain that does not have that package installed. If that domain works perfectly fine, then I don't know about you, but I am highly suspicious of that package. But if you are able to reproduce the issue in a domain that does not have that package installed, well, then the problem's not the package. And when we are troubleshooting, it's a lot like, pretending like we're Sherlock Holmes. We start eliminating what the issue is not so we can narrow in on what the issue is. Now, I will say, if you have an issue in prod, please, please, please try to reproduce it in a non-production domain. Because if you can reproduce it in a non-production domain, that really frees up what you are allowed to do to troubleshoot that issue. Because in a non-production domain, I can place orders. In a non-production domain, I can turn up logging on servers. In a non-production domain, I can go, well, I think I know what the issue is. Let me go out and change the build real quick and then try it again and see if that resolves the issue. I can't do that in prod. Not on a guess. I should say I should not do any of those in production if I can at all avoid it. And bonus, if you do wind up having to go ahead and log an SR, tell us, hey, this issue can be reproduced in mod. Because then our analysts, our senior analysts, our engineers can go into that non-production domain and do all of that stuff. In production, we can't do that. Or I should say, we should not do that. So we always want to try and figure out, is this reproducible someplace else? Now, there will be times where it's a sporadic issue, because I hate sporadic issues. I'm just going to put that out there. It'll be a sporadic issue. And then you might narrow it down to, hey, this only happens on Citrix, but that locally installed machine that we have in the IT office that has the same code level works perfectly fine on there. Well, in that case, it's something to do with the way that the Cerner Millennium front end was installed on those Citrix servers. Or if it's sporadic, Citrix server A might be working perfectly fine and Citrix server B isn't. So what's the issue with B? And if it is a script error, request 265.111, return no records, write that down. Because if you have the exact text of an error, well, then you can go out and you can do research. You can go out to the reference pages, UCERN, eService, to figure out what that issue is. Now, earlier in the week, we had a user that had the system encountered an internal error processing the order action. I went out to the log files for the 101 server. And in the log files, I could see that we were failing because resource routing failed for some reason. But when I went in to put in the order, same patient, same order, it worked perfectly fine. So that told me, yeah, I probably want to go ahead and cycle the resource routing server. But if I didn't know that, I could have taken that resource routing failed and then the number that was after that, I could have taken it out here to these resources that are available out on cerner.com. Again, the wiki, the UCERN e-service, and I could have used that for my investigation. Folks, around 80% of the issues that get submitted to AMS and SolutionWorks are resolved without requiring a change to the code. So that means that the issues that are getting filed are questions. Hey, I can't find this information out in the wiki. They're going to be build issues. They're going to be workflow issues. But only 20% actually require a change to the code. So make sure that you're utilizing the resources that are available to you. And you've seen me this week navigate around the wiki using that search field in the upper right-hand corner. If I go ahead and pull this up here, remember this place? If you click in it, you can see all of the recent places where you have gone. So here's that security access demonstration that I posted in the chat yesterday. So make sure that you know how to move around the wiki, move around UCERN. There's a lot of information out here. It really is just a matter of finding it. Now, I've got a couple of slides that are going to have what I think to be some helpful links out there. The Troubleshooting Cerner Millennium is a great page for getting some troubleshooting tools like MTA and Issue Collector and Crash Collector. And so this is a great place to go, hey, what tools do I have available for troubleshooting? We've already taken a look at the When to Cycle Servers page. In fact, you know what? I'm actually going to go ahead and pull that up. When to Cycle Servers. When to Cycle Servers. Notice all I'm doing is I'm typing in the name. I'm going to go to the When to Cycle Servers that's out in the reference pages. And I like to go ahead and open a new tab. That way I've got a breadcrumb trail of where I started. And folks, I want to go ahead and point something out here while the When to Cycle Servers page is loading. On all of our wiki pages, you have a little star over here that says Save for Later. This is really handy because when you click on that star, when you save for later, it's even better than a bookmark because it saves it in your account out here. So you can go to My Stuff, save for later, or you see the Cerner wiki in the upper left-hand corner? That's actually a button. And if you go to that page, that will take you to your wiki dashboard. And folks, if you're not familiar with this, I'll go ahead and show you here. On your wiki dashboard, which is just wiki.cerner.com, you have got links to help on the wiki. You have direct links to the help pages, to the reference pages, to the ideas space where you can post, hey, wouldn't it be cool if Specimen Management did this? You've got a link to illuminations, which are completely free 1 to 2 hour sessions that are led by a subject matter expert, where you can learn about new functionality real time. So you might want to go ahead and check that out. But if I continue scrolling down here under saved stuff, hey, there's that virtual peripherals list that I just saved. Now, the reason why this is even better than a bookmark, is this is browser agnostic. As long as you can log in to wiki.cerner.com on any browser, you will have access to your saved wiki pages. So if Microsoft Edge is acting up, no problem. You can go ahead and open it up in Firefox or Chrome or Safari. So if there was a page that I would personally recommend you go ahead and save for later, it is definitely this when to cycle servers page. Because this is where you can go, hey, you know what? I have made a change. What servers do I need to cycle? And you can open up the table of contents here, and you can actually go through here and see, hey, do I have one specifically for specimen management? Not really, but I can use a find. Elections. Oh, hey, look, we're under Laboratory Common Services. So you've modified DORC, correct mate, or routing. Okay, you need to cycle 132, 131. You have modified collection routes. All right, so there's 132. Collection priorities, 131. So you can see what changes need to be made. So you can just go ahead and search right on through this list. Hey, did you set a default label printer under Laboratory Common Services? All right, well, in that case, 131 and 132. So you can just use the find feature to navigate through this list. Now, earlier in class, someone said that they had saved this off as like a PDF. And, you know, yeah, that does make it easily accessible for you, but remember, this is a wiki. This was actually last updated on August 21st of this year. So if you are using a PDF, then you may not be getting any updated information. So I would say it's probably better to go and check the wiki than to save it off. But you know what? Doing both never hurts. So folks, I'm not going to go through each of these because I've got the links that are under these pages in the participant guide. You can go ahead and check them out on your own. I did want to go ahead and specifically point out the when to cycle servers because that is just awesome. But we've got troubleshooting specimen management. This is going to give you some specific scenarios. Troubleshooting the processing flow. You know what, folks? Our processing flow reference pages have some pretty good diagrams out there that you may be interested in reviewing. In fact, we go ahead and pull up your participant guide and we go and kind of scroll up. Starting about page 60 going back, here's our resource routing process. Here's the netting server process. Here's the collection list process. Here's the order process diagram. I don't know about you folks, but as a visual person, I get more information out of a diagram than I do out of a paragraph. So make sure that you are kind of reviewing the rest of the information that's in your participant guide PDF, because there's some really good diagrams out here, most of which I got out of a processing flow reference page. Now, the clinical laboratory roadmap. This is going to show you what corrections and what enhancements are coming on down the line. So, hey, there's an enhancement out there. When are we going to be able to get it? Oh, it's going to be out on this code level, this package. So obviously there are more wiki pages than just these, but these I just wanted to go ahead and highlight. Does anybody have any questions on the wiki in general or on any of these pages? then let's go ahead and talk about our UCERN communities. So laboratory ideas, that's the same link that I just showed you over in your wiki dashboard. That is for enhancement requests. Now, folks, just as a heads up, enhancement requests for end user applications are a lot more likely to happen than enhancement requests for build tools, because remember, our ultimate goal is to get all of our build tools moved into Olympus, or sorry, into Bedrock. I apologize. We do have a laboratory medicine UCERN group. We do have a data model reports UCERN group. So I have had some folks who have said, hey, where can I find this information? Like, you know, the question that came in this morning was, you know, if I can't open up the collection template because the tool's not working, where can I find that information? And the answer was, yeah, it's going to be on the back end tables. So how do you find the information on the back end tables? You go ahead and utilize the data model reports. Now, folks, this should look familiar. You probably saw it in the fundamentals class, but if not, let me go ahead and just do a really brief overview here. In the data model reports, we can look at reports by table, which gives us information on each table. We can even go ahead and take a look at the data model diagrams. So if I know the name of a table, because maybe I have seen it out in the wiki, I can go into reports by table, and I'm going to go to the table where we can look up the accession class for the orderable specimen type combination. And that table is procedure specimen type. So if I click on the piece to get to my tables and start with P, I'm going to go ahead and procedure. There we go. All right, so we've got procedure, specimen type. There we are. So I've got a link to the information on the table. Then I've got two other links out here. Now, this first one is for the data model diagrams, the actual roadmap of how the tables work together. The first one is viewable, which means all of the tables are in one diagram. The second one is printable. So if we take a look at the printable one, the collections data model diagram is spread out over 4 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper. Now, folks, I will tell you, when I first got to CERN back in 2005, I printed out the data model diagrams for GenLab, quality control, collections, and I spent a weekend taping them together on my living room floor. And then I took them into our copy center and I had them laminated so that I could draw on them with dry erase marker. Because remember, CCL is all about what information do you have, where is it stored? What information do you want, where is it stored, and how do you get from point A to point B? The data map, the data model here, shows you how to get from point A to point B. So think about it like a roadmap. Think about it like the old Rand McNally physical maps that you used to have to do origami on to go ahead and get them folded back up. So yeah, Taylor, this is great. And again, as a visual person, this makes more sense to me. Now, the viewable one puts everything on one diagram here, and I don't know about you, but if I scroll in enough to where I'm actually able to read it, then I'm having to go ahead and scroll up, scroll down, scroll sideways to go ahead and find what I'm looking for. I'm not a big fan of this one, but your mileage may vary. Now, the table information. This tells us, okay, this is the table. This is the data model diagram it's on. You can look at these scripts that insert into or update this table. You get the description, you get the definition, you get the fact that the information stored on this table is reference data, not activity data. And then as you scroll down, you get all of the columns that are on the table. And folks, I'm gonna let you know right now, this is one of the ways that I remember what my code sets are. If I can remember a table that has the information, I can use the table to look up the code set. So if I don't remember a value that's on that code set, if I don't remember the actual name of the code set, I can simply pull up a table and go, accession class code. Oh yeah, that's 2056. So this is the table where I can take the catalog code value and the specimen type, and I can look up the accession class. So what this means is that if I receive an order from a foreign system and they send a specimen type that we don't have aliased or we don't have associated with the collection requirements for this order, what you're going to see over an order result viewer is you'll see the order over there, but it won't have a specimen type on it. It won't have an accession number, but it might have a status of dispatched or collected. So you know it failed netting somewhere, usually because of this. Now, this is not the only information you have here. You can scroll down and you can see, hey, what is the parent table? Because remember, we have a relational database. It's all about parents and children. And then at the bottom of this section, you can see the fields that you should be using for your CCL queries. These are indexed fields. For my non-comp sci people, indexed fields have special organizational tags on them. So if you say, hey, I'm going to query this table using the catalog code value, for example, it is a much more efficient query. You don't want to use something like update task or update ID, because if you do that and it's not indexed, then you have to do something called a full table scan, which is not efficient. So folks, you can actually download your very own copy of the data model diagram from that data model reports USERN group. And remember, I've got the links under the slides. Now, Stephen, your hand is raised. Go ahead, what's your question?
Yes, about the link. So I'm trying to follow the paths in USERN, and they do not quite match. Like for the data as a service, I do see the USERN product categories, but I do not see a data as a service in USERN.
Okay, so we've got our paths here. So data as a service, CERN Millennium Data Model Reports. All right, so then let's go ahead and take a look at this. All right, so I'm gonna go to USERN from my wiki page. There we go. And we're looking at USERN product categories, data as a service. All right, so let's go ahead and let USERN load here. All right, product categories. And you are correct. They do not have it in the drop-down box. But let me go ahead and show you a shortcut. So if I pull this back up here, I copy CERN Millennium Data Model Reports. I can come up here to search across communities, and I can search for CERN Millennium Data Model Reports. And as I do that, if I go ahead and put that in there, then I can then press the enter key, and that will take me to CERN Millennium Data Model Reports. Whoops, went too far. There's my location. All right, I'm looking specifically for the data model reports. So if I go ahead and you can just search for like data model. Okay, so they put it into old categories, which they don't have in the drop down box. Well, that's rude. All right. So if you just search under community data model reports, click on the one that is the documents, and that'll take you right there. And I want to point out, ooh, hey, look, literally this month, we've got brand new data models. So really easy to download. So I'm going to go ahead and take this URL and I'm going to pop it out here in the chat. And folks, here's how you download. You click on, in this case, I'm going to go to the 2017 or 2018.17 data models. You download the zip file by clicking on this little icon right down here. All right. Now it is going to download to your downloads folder. So I'm going to open the zipped location here. Whoops. I didn't want to remove it. All right, downloading it again. There we go. All right, open. There we go. All right, so now it's in my downloads folder. So at this point, I need to extract it. Now, the way that I do my data models, I actually just save them out of my C drive. So you can see I've got several data model folders out here. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a new folder. There's my new folder. I gotta come on down here. There we go. There's my new folder. And I'm going to rename that folder. All right, come on. New folder. Open in terminal. There we go. I recently got an update and I'm still trying to figure out what the naming convention is. All right, 2018.17 data models. There we go. So that's where I'm going to go ahead and extract the files in that zip folder too. Now, you must extract. You cannot work with these out of the zipped folder. So in your downloads folder, right click, extract all, navigate to where you were, where I created my new folder, which was just on my C drive. I'll select that folder and then I'll extract. So this part can take a while because there's over 3,300 items in there. So I'm not too concerned about that, but let me show you what it looks like in one of my other folders. So in my 2016 data model here, here's what you'll see. You'll get the cascading style sheets, you'll get HTMLs, images, PDFs, but then what you use to actually get this page, what you use is actually the HTML link. So this HTML, Start Cerner Millennium Data Model Reports, you simply click on that, and then that will open that initial page that we had. So folks, you can choose to go ahead and download this now. You can choose to go ahead and download it later. You can choose not to download it at all. That's your choice. I personally find it to be very, very handy. So Stephen, sorry that they added a new step in there that we can't actually navigate to, but hopefully the search feature worked for you. So folks, if you have not joined these UCERN communities, if you haven't had a chance to play around with them, you may want to do that because they are a great place to go ahead and ask other clients, hey, how do you do this? Because folks, as someone who, worked in SolutionWorks, I only saw it if it was busted. I didn't see it if it was working as it was supposed to. So make sure you're utilizing the use turn communities. Now, eService, most of you are probably familiar with eService. eService has our knowledge-based search, but folks, eService only searches knowledge-based articles, flashes, and change requests, solution changes. eService does not search the wiki. eService does not search user. So it is a great place to start your search, but it is not the be-all end-all of research. Anybody have any questions here? My extract was finally done. All right. So then, before we jump into our last set of activities, I did want to go ahead and let you know that there is an Easter egg that is available in Specimen Login. That is an accession dump. And an accession dump is a way to go ahead and view some of the back-end information in the front end. And the keystrokes to get here are in the notes that are under the slide on page 153 of your PowerPoint PDF. So it's a shift right click to the left of the location drop-down box. Now, for any of you who may be familiar with the accession dump in accession result entry, this is very, very similar. Now, I will be honest, I don't use this one as much, but I did want to go ahead and let you know that it is available. And with that, that's the last of our slides. Does anyone have any questions before we head on into the train domain and learn how to go ahead and cycle some servers? All right. So folks, I want you to go ahead and get to page 53 in your participant guide PDF. I'm going to tell you right now, we are going to do the checking on and cycling a server. And we're going to do querying the backend tables, but we are not going to do the MTA activity because I want to try and get through all of this and get you started on your build by 11. Okay, that is my goal because I know I've got folks who have meetings this afternoon and I want to make sure you have your full 4 hours to do your build. So because this is the first time we are going into the train domain today, I'm going to ask you to please go ahead and give me that green check mark once you have successfully signed in to the train domain. It looks like I've got my green check marks out there. Thank you very much. So before we even launch the application, we need to know what is the name of this week's train domain. So folks, go ahead and get rid of your green check marks. And let's go ahead and take a look at our wallpaper here. And Claire, well spotted. The name of our train domain this week is KWTR18. Folks, write that down. We must have that information in order to be able to sign in to SCPview. So KWTR18. Now that we have that, we're going to go to the Millennium Applications folder. We're going to go find SCPview, and we're going to sign on in. Now, I am going to increase the font size real quick here because I know that it could be a little bit better. Okay. So, folks, the user that you are going to use out here is your DL number user. So that's going to be DL, whatever your number is. The domain, this is where we're going to enter KWTR18. Now, the password field is a little weird, folks. The password cursor does not move. So it doesn't look like it is actually accepting the text, but it is. All right. And remember, your front end password is Cerner with a capital C. So type in capital C Cerner. And if all three items that are part of the authentication layer of security match up, username, domain, and password, you will get the SCP prompt. If they don't match up, then it'll just close. It will flat out just close. So if it looks like it crashes on you, then one of those three items didn't match up. So I am going to pause here. Anybody running into any issues? Just getting to the SCP prompt. All right. So then at the SCP prompt, there is a command that is going to tell you all of the nodes that are hosting this week's domain. And the command is just the word nodes. Whoops, got my font turned up too high. Hold on. I like to try to go ahead and increase the font size, but it does not like that. I'm just going to do like courier new. Okay, hold on, folks. When I mess with my font size, it does that. So I'm going to go ahead and jump out and jump back in real quick here. KWTR18, Cerner, nodes. All right. So yes, we want to use the command nodes. And folks, the reason why we need to know the names of the nodes that host the domain is that unlike Olympus, where you can right click and you can cycle the server entry across the domain, in SCPview, you have to cycle the servers on each node where the server is cycled or where the server is running. So we have to select the first node, cycle it on the first node, select the second node, cycle it on the second node, wash, rinse, repeat. And this is why a lot of sites have moved over to cycling servers in Olympus, because when you have multiple nodes hosting your production domain, it is a lot easier to go ahead and just cycle the server entry across the domain. In my train domain, we only have one backend. So because we only have one backend node, it is actually faster for me to cycle servers here in SCP View. All right, so can anyone tell me what is the name of the node that is hosting this week's domain? KWUSTRN18. Perfect. We're going to select that node. So the command is select KWUSTRN18. And if everything was typed in correctly, you will get the current node is, and then that name in brackets. Any questions up to this point? All right. So then let me go ahead and just go to our activity here. For this activity, I am going to show you how to check the properties of a server and how to check and see when the last time the server was cycled. But for your build, for your final activity, you can skip from step 4 to step 8 if you just need to cycle servers. But what we're going to do is we're going to look at the properties on server 132. So to look at the properties on a server, the command is going to be show that static SCP entry ID number, which in this case is 132. Now, it is static because the 132 server will always be the SCS collection server on every client site. This number does not change. Now, I am really reinforcing that because a little bit later on, there will be a dynamic number, one that will change. Now, what we are looking at in here, we're looking at the properties. We can see that there should always be one instance of this server running. And if it crashes, there is another server whose literal only job is to try and restart servers that have crashed. So we have said, hey, restart is enabled. We're going to allow that other server to try and restart this if it crashes. And we have our properties on here. Now, folks, you have heard me say this week, hey, for troubleshooting, we might need to turn up the logging on a server. The log level of a server is a property of the server program. And if you do not see log level listed as a property, then that means that we are running at the default log level, which in this case is we are recording error, warning, and audit level messages. Now, if I was really troubleshooting an issue, especially in a non-prod, I would go ahead and add the property on here, add that log level property, and I would set it all the way up to a level 4, which will give me also informational and debug level messages. Now, we're not going to cover how to do that in this class because that is covered in the architecture, troubleshooting, and issue management class. But this is just a way where you can take a look and see what is the setup for the program right now. Anybody have any questions on step 5? All right. So then, we want to know when was the last time this server was cycled. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get the information on any running instances of this server. So to review the instances, the command is server space -entry space 132. How many instances of this program is currently running? Nope, 14 is the number of messages that it has processed. The number of instances, we have only 1. Now, what is the identification number for this particular instance that is running 181. Okay, folks, that number is dynamic. That number will change every single time that server is cycled. Because what happens when a server is cycled, the new instance that is starting up goes out to a bucket of unused numbers, grabs a number from the bucket, and says, while I'm running, my ID number is, in this case, 181. Once that new server is up and running, the old instance finishes whatever it's working on, and then it shuts down, and it returns its number to the bucket. And that number can be picked up on by any instance of any server. But we need that ID number because we want to know, when did this particular instance start? So to review the information for this instance, the command is server 181 in this case. All right, can anybody tell me, when was this server last cycled? When did this particular instance start? Yep, yesterday, 10:47 in the morning. So why is this important? Some of our servers like to be cycled on a fairly regular basis. Okay, if the instances are up for way too long, they get kind of cranky, and then you start seeing sporadic issues that magically go away when the server is cycled. So if you're seeing sporadic issues, you could check to see, hey, when was the last time this server was cycled? Woo, it's been up for like 2 months. Let's go ahead and cycle that server. See if that resolves the issue. Or, hey, did I remember to go ahead and cycle the servers after I did my build? Because I don't want to start testing my build until I've cycled the servers. You can use this to check and see, did you cycle the servers after you finished your build? Now, folks, not everyone is going to use this. The most common use for SCP view is cycling servers. Now, let me go ahead and pull up our activity here. All right, so to cycle servers, at the SCP prompt, the command is cycle space dash entry, and then whatever the server number is. So this is that static SCP entry ID number of that server program that you're going to cycle. Now, for this activity, I am going to assign you a server. For your final build activity, you will need to cycle the servers that are listed in the participant guide. All right, so for this activity, I'm going to go ahead and assign some servers here. All right, so the first set of servers the first server that I am going to assign, we are going to say, Krista, you are going to cycle 130. Christian, 131. Claire, 132. Jerry, you're going to cycle 133. Hanu, you're going to cycle 101. Hillary, 104. Laura, 107. Lori, 506. Mingyu, you're going to cycle 51. Sherry, you're going to cycle 80. Stephen, you're going to cycle 55. And Taylor, you're going to cycle 331. So let me go ahead and run through that again. 130, 131, 132, 133. 101, 104, 107, 506. 51, 80, 55, 331. So, folks, let's go ahead and enter in your cycle command. Remember, cycle space dash entry space and then your assigned number. I'm going to go ahead and do 200 because I can. If there is only one instance running, you will have a single server ID. There are 6 instances of my server running. So each of those instances are going to cycle. Now, remember, we don't start testing until our servers have finished cycling. So we need to go ahead and take a look at the cycle queue. And the query to look at the cycle queue is cycle space dash query. So go ahead and enter that in. Cycle space dash query. And that will show you the server programs that have been queued up to be cycled. So these are all of the instances of these servers that have been queued up to be cycled. Now, if I try to enter a cycle command for a server that is already in the queue to be cycled, I'm going to get a rejected message because it's already in line. We can't add it to the line again. We have to wait for it to cycle. And then if you want to, you can go ahead and cycle it again. So if you are seeing rejected when you are doing your final build activity, go ahead and do the query command again and just see if these servers are already out there. And then just kick back and relax and wait for them to cycle. Now, how was I able to very quickly enter that cycle-query command? I use the up arrow on my keyboard to recall the previous commands. All right. Stephen, that was a question you had. Olympus has this feature as well. Yes, it does. Olympus will actually do a separate pop-up for each server that you've tried to add to the cycle queue that's already there. Like if you cycle a server group that's already in the queue to be cycled, you'll get a separate pop-up for each one. SCP View does the same thing. So you've seen me do this afternoon. Up arrow, enter, up arrow, enter, up arrow, enter. And I will literally like sit there and do that until my servers finish cycling. Now, I might see other servers appear in the list, but as long as the ones I've entered have finished cycling, then I'm okay to go ahead and begin my testing. So does anybody have any questions on cycling a server out here in SCPV? If you immediately go out and do the cycle-query, because if you don't, then it may have cycled so fast that it may already have been cycled by the time you do that query. Any of these servers that are like a single server, like the incremental search server or the PM utility server, then what you're going to do is, if you wait too long, it's already stopped and started a new one. And it won't show in there anymore. Yeah, as long as it doesn't say rejected, you're good. All right, Taylor's asking, cycle-entry 331. Yep. 331 is the static program name, or static program number. That is the number that will never change. Server ID 511, that is the dynamic instance ID number. That's the number that's going to go back into a bucket once that particular instance shuts down. Taylor, does that answer your question? Yeah, basically you want to remember to, whenever you're doing the cycle commands, the numbers that you're entering are the SCP entry ID numbers that you see on the When to Cycle servers page. So don't worry about that server ID. What you're interested in is the entry ID number. Does that help? All right. So I've got a private question that's come in. Should the server I just cycled be started today if you checked? Once the new instance is up and running, then you can go back and do that server dash entry and then your number. Grab the instance ID number and then server instance ID number. So yes, it should show that it was started today. Can you cycle more than one server in the command? Absolutely. I have cycles. So if you just have like a notepad file, Jerry, you can have each cycle command just on a separate line and then just copy and paste. So it's not a single command, but you can put yourself together a little cheat sheet like this that says, oh, hey, I've got a new service area or I've got new calendar or routing. Then I can just right click, I can copy the whole thing. And then in the train domain here, I can right click and it will paste in all of those cycle commands. And now here we go. I've got the resource routing server. Here's the PM utilities server. Here's the netting. Here's the collections. So I do this for new service areas. In fact, if I come down here are my security validation servers. So when I'm cycling servers for security, I just go ahead and copy the whole kit and caboodle here and paste it on into SCP. So it's not a single command, but it is a way to go ahead and cycle multiple with just a copy and paste. Now, folks, one last thing before we go on our morning break. For those of you that may be interested in cycling servers in SCP view, the server groups in Olympus do not cycle in the same sequence. The server groups in Olympus, I haven't figured out what sequence they cycle in. So if the sequence of the server cycling is important, either add the servers individually to the cycle queue in Olympus or use SCP view. Now, I've got a question out here. Why does your server not have an updated start time? All right, well, let me go ahead and take a look. All right. Server space dash entry space 130. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and do server 147. And it shows November 16th at 10:10. So, Krista, can you go ahead and re-enter your commands, please? Because the commands should be server-entry 130 so that you can get the instance ID number and then server instance ID number, which in this case is 147. Yeah, and Jerry, you're saying you were wondering because you did it one at a time last week. And you know what? That works perfectly too. So if I wanted to, I can simply use the up arrow on my keyboard to go ahead and recall a previous cycle command. And then I can simply backspace, and I'm going to do 351. And then up arrow, backspace, 352, up arrow, backspace, 357, up arrow, backspace, 358. Up arrow, backspace, 359. You can totally do that. The up arrow really is your friend in SCP. And then I can just go ahead and keep up arrowing until I get to my cycle query. And I can recall that and pull it up. So, folks, I am in no way saying that one method of cycling servers is better than any other method of cycling servers. You will find what works for you. And in a production domain, cycling servers in Olympus may be more efficient. In a non-production domain that only has one backend host, Cycling servers in SCP view might be more efficient. It is entirely up to you as far as which one you use on your site, if you are allowed to do so. In my train domain, you do not have access to Olympus. So for the final build activity this afternoon, you will need to cycle servers in SCP view. All right, does anybody have any questions? No with a question mark. Okay. All right, so folks, if you want to, since you know you're going to need this tool for your final build activity, if you want to, you can exit the tool by typing in the command exit. That's entirely up to you. For right now, I want you to get up, stretch, get a cup of coffee, whatever it is you need to do. And when we come back at 10:30, we'll do a little bit of CCL, and then we'll start wrapping things up. So enjoy your break, everyone.
Stinks.
right, folks, welcome back from break. If you can hear me, go ahead and set your status to that green check mark so that I know that you're here. And of course, as always, while we're getting that done, did anybody think of any questions while you were on break? All right, I'm not seeing any questions out there. I'm not hearing any questions. Looks like I've got most of my green check marks. So, okay, we're gonna go ahead and call it good. All right, so folks, what I want you to do now, I want you to go find that accession number that we were working with yesterday. So find the accession number that you put into storage. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up just a notepad file here. And my accession number from yesterday was 23-318-0021. So folks, what I want you to do, I want you to find that accession number. Go ahead and write it down someplace, maybe in a notepad file. And I also want you to enter it into the chat, please. So I want everyone to go find that accession number. We put it into storage yesterday. And I want you to put it into the chat, please. Because what we're going to do in this, Jerry's already unformatted his, yes. All right, folks, what we're going to do, we're going to make our accession numbers look like Jerry's. We are going to take our accession number and we are going to unformat it so that we can use it in a query. Specifically, what we're trying to get is the order ID. Because think about it, with that order ID, we can get order details. We can get netting information. We can get information off of the orders table. We could actually go to the results table to be able to get result IDs for the perform under result table. There's a lot of things that you can do once you have that order ID. And not every site uses PowerChart. So I'm going to show you another way to get that order ID. So once you have your order ID out here, what we're going to do is we're going to unformat it. And the pattern for a Julian-based accession number is 5436. 5 is the site prefix, 4 is the year, 3 is the Julian day, and 6 is the bucket number for that day. So what I want you to do now is I want you to unformat your accession number. We don't use site prefixes, so we're just going to put in 5 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 2023 is our year, 2023. 318 is our Julian day, 318. And then I need to add a couple of leading zeros to bulk the last 4 digits up to 6 digits. So I'm going to add in a couple of extra zeros and then my 0021. And what we're looking for here is about 18 characters. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So folks, once you have successfully unformatted your accession number, I want you to put it into the chat, please. And basically what I'm looking for is that you have enough zeros and you don't have too many zeros. So far, so good. All right, nice. Everybody looks like they've got the appropriate number of zeros. Usually that's the part that trips people up. They either have too many or too few zeros at the beginning, or they have too many or too few zeros between the Julian date and the first set of non-zero numbers. All right, so what we're going to do with this number is we're going to go into Discern Visual Developer and we're going to use it to find our order ID. Now, before I do that, just as a reminder, if you have an alpha prefixed accession number, like for anatomic pathology, so say we've got SP 23 and then 5, 6, something like that. The pattern for an alpha prefix accession number is 5, 2, 4, 7. So again, it starts out with the site prefix. Site prefix is in my domain, so 5 zeros. And then the 2 is that alpha prefix, so there's my SP. And the 4 is the year, 2023. And again, I need to take this 5-digit sequence and I need to bump it up to 7, so I'm going to have to pad the left-hand side with a couple of extra zeros. And then 0, 0, 0, 5, 6. Again, notice it's 18 characters. So the pattern for alphas is 5, 2, 4, 7. So folks, at this point, I have a question out here. To find the accession number from yesterday, Hanu, the easiest way to do that is to go into Order Result Viewer. Because in Order Result Viewer, you can sign in. There we go. And Hanu, you are, I believe, you are DL7. So then just look up all of the orders on your test patient, which would be SM7. So I'm going to come out here, SM7. And you would be working with 23, 318, 28. So folks, again, I really like Order Result Viewer. I can get a lot of information in here, and I can also branch to a lot of the places that I want to go. All right, I'm going to close on out of there. Okay, so we are going to go to Discern Visual Developer. So I want you to sign in to Discern Visual Developer. Now, when you open it up, you may still have a screen that looks like this. So you've got this output area at the bottom. You've got these 5 tabs over on the left-hand side, and a great big old gray area over here on the right-hand side. Well, I'm going to tell you that we're not using all the bells and whistles of Discern Visual Developer. We don't need this output space. So you can actually use the X at the far right of the output window. If you hover over it, it says close. Go ahead and close that window. We don't need that. To get a new text editing tab in here, we're going to go to the upper left-hand corner. We're going to click on that new button. And it's going to ask, hey, what kind of a file are you wanting to create here? If you choose anything other than blank, it is going to default in some formatting comments for you. When we're doing an investigation, we really don't need all of that extra stuff, so blank is fine. So then we'll click OK. So let's go ahead and just kind of get our thoughts in order here. What information do we have? We have the accession number. And the accession number is stored, among other places, on the accession _order Oops, that's an underscore, not a plus sign. Underscore R table. Now, folks, remember this is a relational database. The accession underscore order underscore R table is the relationship table that binds the accession table to the orders table. So while I could start out at the accession table, because the accession number is a field on the accession under order under R table, I can just go directly there. So what I'm going to do now is on the left-hand side, remember we have these tabs over here. I'm going to open up the tables and fields tab. And if I right click on it and I go to add remove, I can actually come out here and select the accession underscore order underscore R table. Now, you're probably wondering, why would I do that? Well, if I select that and I click OK, it shows me all of the fields that are on that table. And not just the fields, it shows me the type of information stored in that field. That's going to come in handy. Because what we want the order ID. Now, thankfully, it is also stored on the accession under order under our table. So with a single query, we can get our order ID. We don't have to branch to any other table. So now we can just go down a couple of rows and we can start writing our query. Now, can anyone remind me what are the three basic parts of a CCL query? Can anyone remind me what are the three basic parts? Yes, select, from, and where. Select what do you want, from, where it's stored, where one of the values is something that you know. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in here, each one on their own line, because I think it just makes it easier to understand. And let's just say I'm doing a really quick investigation. It's a small table, so I am okay pulling just all of the columns. Does anybody know what the wildcard character is to be able to pull all of the columns in a query? Yeah, you got it. It's that asterisk. So we're going to select star from the accession under order under our table. Copy, paste, where. Okay, now, which field do we know in here? Do we know the accession ID or do we know the accession? We know the accession because if you'll remember, again, from fundamentals, any of these underscore ID fields, that is a unique system assigned number that is used to identify this particular value on the back end. So we know the accession. Now, check this out. I can drag and drop that accession field right into my query. So this comes in really handy when you're building a more complex query and you're going to be using several different fields. So where my accession equals, whoops, not that one. Where my accession equals this number. So copy and paste. Now, question for you. Will my query work as I have written it? Or have I forgot something? Krista, I didn't even get a chance to finish my question. Yeah, I need to have quotes. Because folks, look at the data type on the accession field. The data type is VC. VC stands for various characters, and characters mean quotes. So remember, we must put quotes around the value in any column if anywhere in the column there could be a letter. We can have alpha prefixed accession numbers. So we could have SP somewhere in this column. So even though this particular accession doesn't have any letters in it, we still must put that value in quotes. Does anybody have any questions on that? All right. So then what you're going to do is you're going to highlight that query. And then you can either go to build, run ad hoc query, or keyboard shortcut, Control Q. Either way works. So go ahead and run your query. And there we go. There is the order ID. I can copy that, close the query, and I can paste it right there on the main screen. So folks, what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and copy and paste your order ID into the chat, please. I want you to run your query and then copy and paste that order ID into the chat, please. All right, I'm seeing those order IDs come in. Nice. So, folks, no results. Troubleshooting opportunity. All right, hold on one moment here. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to copy that. Come on down here a couple rows. And then I'm going to scroll up, Stephen, and I'm going to go grab that unformatted accession number that you gave me in the chat. I'm going to copy and paste that in. And then, oh no, hey, I'm typing in all caps out here. Go ahead and put this in quotes. Now, I think I see the problem here. Notice that your year is 2020, the year we all wish we could forget. It's not 2023. So, Stephen, I'm going to change that to 23. And then I'm going to run this, and there we go. So, Stephen, go ahead and change your query so that the year is 2023, not 2020. And you'll be fine. And I apologize, I missed that when I was checking them over. I was focused more on the zeros. I was not looking for the year. So go ahead and give me your order ID in the chat. All right, so folks, that's how we can get the order ID. And remember, with the order ID, with the data model diagrams, you can see all of the various tables that you can take that order ID to pull information. So, folks, that is where we are going to stop. There is more information out in the participant guide that you can use if you want to go ahead and do a little bit of CCL practice. But again, because I know we've got a couple of people with meetings later on this afternoon, I want to go ahead and get you started on the final activity. Okay? So I'm just going to pause here. Does anybody have any questions? All right. So with that, we're going to go ahead and start wrapping things up. Folks, if you wish to provide feedback for this class, you can go ahead and email my supervisor. His name is Terry Perot. So you can actually email terry.perot@oracle.com. Now, this is absolutely not required. It is entirely up to you as far as if you want to do this. But I will tell you that I take any feedback very seriously. I do my best to go ahead and implement the feedback that will improve the class because I know you're busy. I know that you've got other things that you need to do, and I want to make sure that it's worth taking time out of your week to take this class. So if you have any feedback, go ahead and email my boss on it, and then we'll talk about it in my meeting with him tomorrow. Now, I have just sent everybody the final activity PDF. So what I want you to do is I want you to give me that green check mark when it reaches your email inbox, please. So I want you to go ahead and give me that green check mark once you have received the final activity PDF. Basically, I'm making sure that everybody actually gets it. And if you don't get it, please go ahead and let me know. Thank you very much for those of you that have your out of office on. I'm getting a lot of out of office messages in here, which is great because you're letting people know that you were busy this week. All right, almost everyone has received the final activity. So Hillary, please go ahead and let me know when you receive yours. If you don't, okay, good, you got yours, perfect. Okay, so folks, for the final activity, all right, we're gonna go over it. It is open book, it is open notes. Please not open Neighbor, since I know that we've got some folks who are working from the same site this week. You need to know that you know how to do this, not that your compatriot knows how to do this, because they could win the lottery and retire to Fiji, and they're not going to be available for you to ask questions. Now, I will say, if for some reason the build does not go well, you will need to schedule a test out session through cliented@cerner.com. Okay, I'm not anticipating that in this class, but you never know what's going to happen. You will have 4 hours to complete the build, so you will have until 3 p.m. Central Time to complete the build. So let's go ahead and go over the activity. So it is very generic, very generic. All right, each of you has 2 assigned orderables out there. They start with a period, so .sm, FA, so specimen management final activity, and then your DL number formatted to 2 characters. Okay, your DL number formatted to 2 characters. So Krista's is going to be .smfa03A and 03B. Now these orders need collection requirements. They already have a subactivity type on there, but remember you can use that subactivity type to query for the orders, to filter down. They are going to have specimen type of blood. They are going to use the accession class that you built this week. Collection method, venous draw. Container, SST. Collection class, the one that you built this week. Special handling, the one that you built this week. Alternate container, the one that you built this week. And lab handling, the one that you built this week. And the plasma aliquot. Now, folks, I am just going to do a couple of reminders here. 1, copy function in Bedrock is great, okay? And 2, there are a couple of these things you're not going to be able to add in Bedrock. Now, if it was me, what I would do is I would do as much build as I could in Bedrock. I would copy to my other orderable, and then I would go into the other build tool, Forward Paint, and add on the remaining items. But you know what? You do you. Now, that's just the build. For the workflow, make sure you cycle servers. If you ask me to cycle servers, you must give me the exact server numbers, because knowing which servers to cycle is an incredibly important part of building and maintaining pretty much anything in Specimen Man, or anything in Cerner Millennium. So remember, the workflow that you are going to go through is going to be a combination of what we did on Monday morning and what we did in the activity validations. So first, you're going to go into DOE. You're going to place your A container or your A order on your patient as a routine collect for tomorrow at noon. It must schedule. In collection list, you're going to go ahead and print the labels to the dummy label printer so you get your accession number assigned. Write down your collection list number. You're going to go into Specimen login. You're going to use the collection list number to pull up that accession. You're going to mark it as missed, recollect now, due to the patient being unavailable. You're going to then use the accession mode of Specimen login to first change the SST tube to your tube, so that alternate container. Then you're going to log that specimen in as collected today about 2 minutes ago from your remote draw location, and it was collected by the phlebotomist. So you now have an order in a collected status. So you're going to place your B order as not collected stat, so it gets dispatched immediately. And then you're going to use collections resolution to merge the dispatched stat order out into the already routine collected container. Folks, remember that the collections resolution application really likes double clicks. And I will say, this is the most common pain point in the workflow, is people don't remember how to go ahead and go through collections resolution. If you get stuck, please do not spend an hour spinning your wheels. All right, if it's been 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and you can't get going, ask me. One of the last people to finish in some of my previous classes have been the ones who have been, man, I've been troubleshooting this for an hour and I still can't get it to work. Why did you wait for an hour before asking me? That's literally why I am here. Okay? So give it 5-10 minutes and then give me a private conversation. Say, hey, I'm stuck. And I'll see if I can get you unstuck. All right, continuing on. Now, one thing we did not have to do this week is return to Specimen login to log in the aliquot from our B container, because on Monday we didn't have an aliquot. So you will need to log in the aliquot from the B container into your remote draw login location. Jerry, it wasn't you. I promise it wasn't you. All right, so then you're going to go into transfer specimens. You're going to build a transfer list from your remote draw location to LabCorp for all of your containers, and you're actually going to transfer it. You're going to go into Specimen login by list mode, use that transfer list number to log in the specimen to LabCorp. You are going to use modify collections to change the collection method from Venus draw to no charge on your main container. The aliquots will auto update. And then for storage tracking, on your unit on today's shelf, you are going to add your number 2 tray to your shelf. This is a very commonly forgotten step because we didn't actually use the trays this week. This is the first time you're using your tray. Don't forget this step. So you're going to add your tray to your shelf, then you're going to add the rack to the tray, then you're going to add your parent container to the 1A cell. You're going to check it out, which is going to reset that rack to empty. Then you're going to go ahead and add that container to your number 3 rack, and then you're going to discard the container. Now, like all of my classes that are build classes, I give you a screenshot of how I'm going to grade it. Okay? This is what collection requirements inquiry should look like. And this is what container inquiry should look like. So folks, if it looks like this, you pass. Now, just like in the email, once you are done, once you've compared your collection requirements inquiry and your container inquiry to my screenshots, and you're like, yep, that looks good, email me the accession number that you want me to grade. I need it in an email so that I have it for my records, so that I can reply to that email, congratulations, you passed, so that you can have that for your records. And then I will update ULearn once everyone's done. And with that, does anybody have any questions before you get started? All right. So, folks, I'm going to go ahead and let you get started with your build. Remember, I will be available in the chat if anybody has any questions. And then just email me that accession number that you want me to grade. And unless I'm grading somebody else's, you should hear back from me pretty quickly. It does not take me very long to grade it all. So with that, I'm going to say good luck, and I'm here if you need me.